Hello everyone, my name is Oleksii. I'm a DJ and electronic music producer. I'm also a sound engineer, so today I will help you to master the DJ mix. Let's do it in Ableton because it's the software which is the most popular between the DJs. So let's start. Here's a brand new session. That's the default session in Ableton. You have a couple of MIDI tracks, a couple of audio tracks and returns. So we want to get rid of the channels that we won't use in this session. So first of all, MIDI is gone. We're gonna leave only one audio track, and let's name it mix, DJ mix, and let's delete the return tracks as well. So we're gonna have left only mix track and the master track. Go back to the arrangement view and let's import the audio track. Let's drag and drop the audio file, so that should use an original audio right here. So that's an audio from my DJ mix recorded vinyl only, so that you may double check it when it's ready on YouTube or Facebook on my page. Let's just wait until the file will be checked and create the overview for this file. Important things to know when you're importing the long files. What may happen is that the warping engine will warp the file to the speed of your session, so the BPM settings. To avoid this, you can double check your settings in Ableton preferences. So go warp in preferences and find the section where it says auto warp long samples, and please turn it off. Okay, so in this case the short samples will be automatically warped as normal, but the long multi-tracks or mix, for example, like I do today, will not be affected by warping engine. Okay, so that's what I want right now. Okay, while it's still creating an overview, I've noticed a couple of bugs in my mix. Transitions were pretty good, and actually there is not much difference between the tracks, but you may still find the loudest spots in your mix. So the thickest waveform obviously will be the loudest point, but what else I found is there are a couple of sparks which is probably created by the dirt in the groove. So the pop and clicks sometimes appear when you mix in vinyl, so that's kind of, you have to get used to this because it's analog flow. And let's just find where those peaks are. I found only two spots. That's number one and number two. Alright, so would be cool, I think, just to eliminate this noise first of all. How you can do that? According to the sound theory and noise cancellation technique, we can just simply use another channel with the copy of the same information, like this. Just don't forget there's fades as well. I would need to open the fades a bit wider. And if I use this channel in inverted phase, so we need to invert phase on this channel, that should reduce in volume or completely cancel this spark. So I'm gonna do the same with the second spark, which is in this point. So as you see, it's pretty easy to spot where the problems are in the waveforms. Okay, so just pay attention, copy and paste into the same place. Do not move file, try to align the original files with the inverted files, okay, as they are right now. So how we can change the phase of the channel? All we need is just a utility. In audio effects, go ahead and use the search mode. That's the quickest way to find anything in this huge library. So the utility, and as we use it on an inverted channel, we need to invert the phase of both channels, left and right. Okay, so let's see what it sounds like after the treatment and before treatment. So first of all, before treatment, as you can hear, there's a pretty noticeable click. And now when I'm using with an inverted track, okay, there is no pop anymore. That sounds pretty good. That was easy. And let's just confirm that the second position over here has been treated well as well. It's still making some noticeable sound, so I'm just gonna expand a little more. Still doing that. I think it's much better. It's still there something, but not as an original. So if I turn off the inverted, it will be like really noticeable click. And now with inverted phase, it's much thinner, and almost you may not even notice that in the mix. All right. The second stage, I think, we just need to understand what the level of the mix is at the moment, and let's find the loudest place in the mix. According to the waveform, that's probably this area. That's the thickest bass that I found, the waveform in the mix. And let's just use the locator and loop it. Okay, I would need to work now with the group of channels because we treated the clicks and we need to process now 2 channels at once. The solution to this would be to group both channels. So select channels and press Command and G, the master bus. So now we group 2 channels together, and if you open the group, you will see both channels in there. Now we're gonna use the chain of plugins on the group. All right, so utility, that would be a start point, and let's find the loudest point in the mix and play about 30 seconds and find out where we are. If you drag a little bit up your faders, you will see the more precise metering system. It's not super cool, but still you can see the numbers, and that's what you need. Above the 0 over here, which is basically the fader position, please keep it in 0. You will see the other numbers which is changing, so that is actually the peak number, so how loud is your mix is, and usually it shows you the loudest peak, and it means if you want to be precise, you would need to reset it a few times to understand where you are at the same point at this moment. Alright, so it says 6 and sometimes it gets -5.7, so that's the numbers, the headroom to 0.
But he would get in the studio and just be in there all day, all night, and come out with like 10, 12 songs.
Just selecting different points where there's no speech. Alright, so the loudest peaks in the mix is -5, almost 6 decibels. That means that I would need to boost 6 decibels to reach the 0. To avoid the clipping effect, I would like to play safe, and I will boost only 3 decibels to reach -3 decibels output. Okay, that's pretty good. Why I do this? Because I don't want to distort my next plugin, and I would need to leave this headroom for the next plugin to avoid clip-off effect. Then let's just take the EQ, something like simple, turn off all the effects. So that's the EQ8, because EQ8 shows you all types of the curves. It doesn't mean we're going to use them all. So first of all, I'd like to start with the left and treat the low frequencies, because it's a vinyl mix. There is a lot of information on the lower end, and unfortunately I cannot go lower than 30. If I were you, I would use 20 hertz cut and still enjoy the low frequencies, but in this case the lowest point is 30 hertz. So I'm going to not use the sharp high pass filter, but just a regular one, because it has a couple of octaves roll off. So still want this information. And what I've noticed in my mix, if you watch the spectrum analyzer, that some of the high frequency is a bit muffled, so there's lots of bass and a nice representation of mids, but the trebles are a little weak. Comparison to the digital files, that may sound a little muffled. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna activate the high shelf, and I'm gonna boost everything above the 8 kilohertz a little bit more. That brings a little brightness into the sound. So 8 kilohertz and just a few decibels, to no more than 3. Okay, so you may, if I exaggerate it, you may see what exactly I'm boosting. So that's the brilliance of the sound. I'll call it sizzle sometimes. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. So no more than 4 dB. If I turn it off, that's how it was. That's how it is right now. So the high frequency is taking a little more punch and clarity. I think it's pretty good. That's what I want. The next final stage would be limiting. Let's go and search the limiter in audio effects. Double click on the limiter, deploy it, and let's double check the settings by default of this limiter. So the ceiling is the maximum output of your mix after the limiter. So that's actually the threshold that the sound will never exceed. And this is a good point, because if you leave 0, then after the conversion from digital to analog, the audio has actually tend to expand a little bit. So you may have another half dB above that. So that's why we trying to protect first of all the digital platforms and the analog platforms as well. So the -0.3, that would be 3 points before the 0 occurs. So that should be okay, and normal safety. So don't change that, don't change it to 0, otherwise your audio will be clipping. Second of all, we're going to boost the gain until we see some of the gain reduction. And here you go, you may see it now. If you keep squashing it, then you will completely change the dynamic of your mix. But I would like to play safe, I would like to enjoy the dynamic of the music, and let's just double check that that was the loudest point in the mix. And if I play it somewhere else, it will never touch even the 0. And now I want to double check with the LUFS meter how loud is my mixes for digital platforms. And In this case, unfortunately, I didn't find any plugins that shows me LUFS units. Uh, in this case, I have to use some of the other third-party plugins like probably Waves, VLM Meter, which is stereo meter, which is gonna deploy it at the very end. As you can see, that's how it looks like. You may see long-term LUFS, so that's the loudness full-scale metering system in units, and the short-term as well. So for the streaming platforms like SoundCloud, Spotify, these platforms use as a standard -14 LUFS long-term. So I'm gonna set up short-term to -14 as well. And let's play the mix, we'll see where we are at the moment. We're actually 1 decibel louder than we should be. And as you can see, in the momentarily LUFS is even louder because that's the reality of the pressure, how loud as your track is. My true peaks are a little peaking as well because it sets to -2 dB. I don't want -2 dB, I want -0.3 because that's what my ceiling of the limiter is. And when it's finally reaching that point, it will show me that I am in the right spot. So let's see the loudest spot first. -14. So that's pretty good. And we reaching the -0.3. We barely touch it with the limiter, so that's pretty much where we want to be without overcompressing this loudest point in the mix. And we just don't care what's happening with the rest of the mix. We just wanted to see that our loudest point in the mix will not exceed the limit. Finally, you can double check the beginning of the mix and create a nice fade in and fade out. So I would recommend to leave at least 150 milliseconds at the beginning to avoid any media players to cut the very first phrase in the mix. So leave at least like that. Okay. So that's enough. And then the end point. It would be great to create a nice fade out because there is still a noise and we want to reduce noise towards the end of the mix. Okay, and you can hear how the white noise from the analog circuitry fading out along with the effect. I think I'm pretty good with what we achieved so far. All we need to do just to select the area which is we want to bounce. So let's put locator from the start till the end. Go to the file and export audio. In this case, we don't have to select the master output. We can select the group output, our group called master bus. And instead of sample rate 48, now I want to reduce it to 44-100 because this is the audio standard, 16-bit and 44-100. We don't need to convert it into anything else. The normalize is not appropriate here, so it's off. I don't even need to create an analyzed file for this, so just save some time and turn this thing off. So let's just go and export as the normal audio. That's the master file. I want to overwrite and click save. Replace that file. Finally, when the file is done, let's just conclude the tutorial. So we've used inverted channel to get rid of the clicks and pops, digital clicks and pops, or analog clicks and pops like here in vinyl session. And we grouped both channels together into the one master group, plugged in the chain of the plugins on the group itself. First of all, the utility, amplify the level to the nominal, barely touch -3 decibels for the second unit. Then equalizer helped us to reduce a little bit the bottom end, everything lower than 30 Hertz. We've used the high shelf to enhance the high frequencies because of the vinyls. And finally, the limiter is the final stage and protector. We have a ceiling set, and we set the gain to accompany the LUFS meter up to -14 LUFS. That's what the cloud platform. Thank you for watching this simple tutorial how to master DJ mix in Ableton. Please like the video and add some comments below, or subscribe the channel if you would like to see more tutorials like this. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.